Greetings. Welcome to Baltimore Comic Con.
Bestow Productions presents Creative Continuity at Baltimore Comic Con 2013. Get the latest news directly from your favorite artists, writers, and a few surprises. Tune in for Creative Continuity's coverage of Baltimore Comic Con. We bring the convention to you.
So give us a little background. How'd you become Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange has always been one of my favorites since I was a kid. His superpowers are learned. He has practiced the mystic arts and dedicated his life to becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. He's not your typical superhero. He's above average intelligence, and he is a protector of the universe.
And you refer to yourself in the third person most times?
Sometimes.
We're here at Baltimore Comic Con 2013 talking with Mr. DeMatteis. How did you begin in the words and pictures business?
You know, it was just, I've always been creative. I was an artist when I was a kid. I'm a musician and a songwriter, and I always wanted to write. I always loved comics, and basically I just banged my head against the wall until someone read the stuff, and kept banging until someone bought something, you know?
What was maybe your first big project you did?
I guess, you know, I started really at DC in the late 70s, early 80s, and, you know, on all the anthology books, Weird War Tales and House of Mystery and all those. And it was like you kind of moved up in increments. Then I got to do like an 8-page Batman story, you know what I mean? And I started writing the Aquaman strip, which was like 8 pages a month. And then you get your first full-length story, which was like a Brave and the Bold, you know? And then I went to Marvel, and suddenly I was writing 3 books a month for Marvel, you know, Defenders and Captain America and Marvel Team Up and all this stuff. So it was sort of like a step ladder. Now you sort of come in, and either you're going right to like a major book or you're not doing anything. There were really steps in those days, and it was great because you really were able to learn your craft along the way.
What attracted you to writing, you know, The Phantom Stranger, basically Judas?
I love the supernatural characters. I think the supernatural, mystical characters allow you to write a kind of a story that the straight-ahead superheroes don't. You can get into a lot of more philosophical things and mystical things, which I really love. And so when they called me up and said Phantom Stranger, I didn't have to think about it. I was like, yes, plus I love the character. And I thought Dan did a great job with the backstory and developing this new version of the character. And then I took over the book, and now I'm going to take over Justice League Dark as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. Let's face it, we didn't just wipe the Phantom Stranger out of the DC universe. What that story was really about for me was to show how far the character had come. This guy who really had been following the voice, really just for his own ends. And here he went, and over those course of those 3 issues, he starts to do things that are not about him. He didn't know Dr. Light. He's helping Batman and Superman out in this thing, not because it's going to help him. And in fact, he literally is risking his own existence. So ultimately, it's not about, oh, he got wiped out of existence. That only matters in the sense that he took such a huge risk selflessly, which for me was a huge leap forward for the character. And we will see that continue to move forward through the character's evolution. Is his family ever going to return back, or is it going to be mostly... As of now, in my mind anyway, it's comics, so you never know. In my mind, they are dead, they have moved on, and now he's adrift. As you'll see in the next issue, when he does come back, that was the anchor that he had. He loved those people, and he's completely lost now. And so
Is the Spectre a little bit still angry about certain things?
Yeah, I want to get the Spectre back in the book and move that relationship forward also. You know, what's coming up now is that we're going to be tying into Forever Evil. So it's going to be 6 or 8 months of like this massive thing going on between Justice League Dark and Phantom Stranger and Pandora and Constantine. All those books are going to hook up. So I'm not sure if we can get the Phantom Stranger in there. I mean, the Spectre in there, but if not, then we'll get him in when that's over, because I want to bring that thread back. It's really hard with these crossovers to do a story, because, you know, they want you to do a tie-in, and the goal is ultimately to do a tie-in that matters, as opposed to it's just another issue that ties into Trinity War somewhere. So I wanted that Phantom Stranger issue to be important, and luckily we had been building over those months, so that story, we used it to kind of pay off what we've been building up.
What are you planning for JLD? Because you're taking over from where Ray and where Jeff
they did a brilliant job, I thought. Yeah. And again, this is all tying into Forever Evil, and after Trinity War, Constantine is the only one left. And he's kind of facing the same question that the Phantom Stranger is, well, now what? And evil has basically taken over the world. Here's a guy who you know, he's not exactly a good guy, but he's been fighting the good fight. So his question in the beginning of my first issue is, why bother? Why do I bother to go fight this stuff when in the end it always wins? And once he answers that question, then it becomes a question of, if he decides to stay on the side of the Angels, where's the team? What do I rebuild? Who am I going to get to help me to find out if the rest of the team is even alive or not? But when we start off, they're all missing. They're all, as far as we know, they could be dead. Now, let's be honest. It's comics. Even if they are dead, first of all, if it's Dead Man, how can he be dead? So, you know, you don't want to... we don't know where they are. We don't know what's happened. And that's ultimately Constantine's goal, is A, to find out, and if they're reclaimable, to go find them and save them. You know?
What else do you have coming up beyond those two books?
Keith Giffen and I are doing Larfleas every month at DC, which is where you get to go to be completely ridiculous and silly. Mike Plug and I have a new series we're going to be doing for Dark Horse next year. I'm doing some stuff. Archie is resurrecting their superhero line. And we have a backup in the Fox with the Shield. And then after this backup runs, we're going to do a Shield miniseries for them. And I have another top secret project, which is a book, but I can't talk about it yet.
DC, Marvel, Dark Horse?
It's an actual novel. Oh. But it may tie into one of these characters, but I can't say yet.
All right.
So I'm pretty busy right now. I'm very happy to be busy.
Bob McLeod, how did you get started in comics?
Well, I did it in a way you can't really do it anymore. I started in the production department at Marvel Comics. I went up to New York to start my career and was getting nowhere, and met Neil Adams, who was at his peak in the business at that time, and he called up Marvel and recommended me for a job in the production department. And after about 4 or 5 months in there, I met all the editors and showed them my samples, and eventually started getting freelance work. I started out mostly doing inking in the beginning, and just did a whole bunch of inking, but at the same time I was working on my penciling. So probably when I did the New Mutants, co-created the New Mutants with Chris Claremont. That's kind of what I'm best known for, and was kind of probably the highlight of my career, I would say.
How has that led to other work in your career?
Well, that was one of my first penciling jobs. So from there, I got penciling doing Star Wars for a while, and eventually went over and penciled Superman and some Spider-Man stuff at Marvel. So one job kind of leads to another.
Well, which of the New Mutants has maybe been your favorite to work on?
I always enjoyed Cannonball the most. I envisioned him as kind of a hillbilly guy and made him tall and lanky and just fun to draw. So,
anything in particular working at in your career at DC?
At DC, yeah, I loved working on Superman. That's the comic I read the most when I was a kid, so it was a great pleasure and honor to pencil him as a part of my career. Worked on Wonder Woman, that was fun. The Teen Titans. Yeah, I always liked doing Lois Lane. Not sure why, but I just liked all of the characters in the Superman, Jimmy Olsen. I had a good time on Superman doing those different characters. I usually like the the secondary and third characters rather than the main character. Always seem to be more fun to draw. There used to be a big difference between Marvel and DC, but over the years they became similar in many ways. So for the freelancer, it wasn't a whole lot of difference. Marvel used to work strictly with plots, and DC would be finished scripts, so that was a big difference, but that's gone back and forth. Like to draw all the different characters, but mainly I just like to draw people. So I don't really care if I'm doing Batman or Superman or Wolverine or the Hulk or whatever. I just like figure drawing.
Which has been your maybe favorite project to work on?
Well, my favorite project was this superhero ABC book that was published by HarperCollins, because I got to write it and draw it and ink it and color it all myself. Whereas in comics, you're more of an assembly line most of the time, where you're just doing one piece of the job, either the penciling or the writing or the lettering or the inking or whatever. Yeah, it just makes all the difference in the world, because when you're just doing the inking, say, you just don't have enough control over what the finished product's going to look like. The colorist changes things. If you're the penciler, the inker, and the colorist change things. You get the writer, you know, everybody's always putting their own fingers in it and changing it. So it can be frustrating just doing one thing, one part of the puzzle. So it's much better to do the whole thing yourself if possible.
How'd you get into working on superhero ABCs?
I always wanted to do a children's book, and my wife actually came up with the idea for a superhero alphabet book. And I said, wow, I can't believe I haven't thought of that and nobody else has thought of that. That's a great idea, so I better do it before somebody beat me to it. So I hurried it up and got it out there. It's a totally different audience. I've met a whole lot of different kinds of people through the book that I never met in comics. You know, the comic superheroes have, for a long time, they just got into comic stores where only a small percent of the public would see them. Whereas when you're in the bookstores, the general public is seeing your work. So it opened my work up to a much broader spectrum of the public.
What other stuff do you have coming up, sir?
Right now I'm working on an X-Men job for Marvel for the 50th anniversary of the X-Men. 20-page story that I'm penciling and inking, and Chris Claremont's writing.
What's it going to take for him to come back?
I don't want to say, but it ties into this theme of the fact that these were selfless acts.
Do you know about Bestow Productions? We're the area's leader in video production. We provide quality, award-winning, and professional work in television commercial advertising, video for the web, video content for direct distribution, video on demand, and so much more. Give us a call at 570-486-4948 and see what Bestow can do for you. And now you know.